Okay, one of the most common questions that comes up is a person wanting to know, can you register or title your vehicle out of state? You live in a certain state and you want to title it somewhere else. Well, the first question to ask is why would you want to do that? Because depending upon the reason, could be whether you can or can't. Now, in most states, they don't give out titles or registrations to out-of-state residents. The federal guidelines for DMV says that in order to get a title in your state, you're supposed to be a resident of that state. If you're not a resident of the state, they're going to ask you, well, why do you want to title it here? Registrations and titles are for use in that state. Now, maybe you have a piece of land there. Maybe you have a business there. Maybe you vacation there. Maybe like you're a snowbird and you come from New York down to Florida. There are certain exemptions. However, you have to prove what's called a domicile or a nexus to that state. And if you don't have a legitimate connection to the state, you're probably not going to have your application approved. Now, if the reason you want to go to a different state is because it's easier to get a title there, well, there's two problems with that argument. First of all, there's no easy states. Everybody thinks their state is hard because that's the only state they have an experience with. Every state's going to be hard to get a title unless you have all the right paperwork. Unless you have the actual title certificate from the last owner properly signed over to you, it's going to be hard to get a title because that's what you're supposed to have. And if you don't have it, technically you're not supposed to get a title at all. But there are some processes you could use in order to get a title. Sometimes those are easy, but most times you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. For example, in New Jersey, they have the process where it's defective title document process. It's 15 steps. It may take you months. In some states, you can do a bonded title, but it's not going to be easy because getting a title is considered to be like getting money out of the bank. You have to have the right credentials. So why would you want to go to another state? Well, if you think it's going to be easier, that means you're trying to avoid something difficult in your state. That's the key word, avoid or evade. If you're trying to evade something in your state, like an inspection or taxes or paperwork, trying to go out of state is going to get you into trouble. Because when you get that title from out of state, you have to do one of two things. Either you have to transfer it to your state, or you have to drive around with an out-of-state plate in your local state. If you drive around with an out-of-state license plate, the problem is you're going to get pulled over because when you are seen driving a vehicle with an out-of-state plate on a regular basis, at some point you're going to get pulled over and they're going to start asking you questions. Why didn't you register in your state? Most states have a law that says you have to title or register your car in that state within a certain period of time, not of when you bought the vehicle, but a certain period of time of when you move to the state. So if you already lived in the state for 30 days, the clock is over. So there's a lot of schemes that people use. Well, I'll form a corporation in another state, put it in that corporation name, and then drive it around. The problem is you have to figure out where you're going to get insurance. Your insurance policy is going to ask you for what's called a garage. You will be back in your video in just a few seconds. In the meantime, remember that actualhuman.com offers you live one-on-one private video consultation with an expert in this exact subject. We want to listen to your story. We want to hear your questions. We want to give you expert advisement of your options and tell you what we know about your particular situation. Now back to your video. Garaging address, a garaging address. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a garage. It just means where your car is parked on a regular basis. If let's say you get a corporation in Oklahoma and title it in Oklahoma, your insurance company is going to say, well, where do you keep the car? Well, if you say Oklahoma, okay, that matches your registration. But what happens if you live in Georgia and every day you park your car in your driveway in Georgia? If something happens to that car and you have an insurance claim in Georgia, they're going to ask you, what the heck were you doing in Georgia? And if they find out that you improperly gave a wrong garaging address, they're going to decline your claim and you're not going to get paid. On the other hand, if you try to put Georgia as your garaging address, they're going to ask you, well, then why are you titling it in Oklahoma? What's the reason for that? Catch 22. So the short answer is, unless you have a very, very good legitimate reason to title it out in another state, like you have a second property there, you have land there, trying to jump around different states in the long run is going to get you into trouble. There are a lot of interstate task force agencies that are collaborations between the different states, Department of Motor Vehicles, state police, tax authority, that are looking for people that are trying to use loopholes to use other states to get their titles. In most cases, using the loophole ends up costing more money and more hassle, and it's not even as good as just biting the bullet and doing it in your own state. But a lot of people feel like they want to get away with something, so they'll use these loopholes. But many of them are now getting prosecuted. We've posted news stories before where some of these schemes of forming LLCs in other states, putting in the title to avoid taxes or avoid inspection, people are getting jammed up with it. And it's just a matter of time where when they go back and audit your ownership, they could go back 4 or 5 years and find out that you avoided taxes. They'll charge you penalties, interest. In some states, it's actually a criminal offense because you avoided taxes. Another thing that you might want to consider is anytime you're looking to do something with out-of-state documents and legal stuff, you might want to get advice from an attorney, because sometimes you can get something from an attorney where you may not be able to find the right answer online. Some of these online forums or websites or chat boards will tell you, yeah, just go and do this loophole, and they may not know what they're talking about. And a lot of people are getting into trouble because they didn't know what they were doing was improper, just they saw something on a website. So food for thought. Out of state may seem like it's a good thing, but just make sure that it's for a legitimate reason. Look, if you're truly a snowbird and you live in Illinois and you go down to Palm Beach every year for the winter and you have a car down there, that's fine. That's probably legitimate. But if you are in New Jersey and you have a car, you can't get a title, and it's a salvage, and you think maybe you can get an easier inspection in North Carolina, it's not going to work. And even if it seems like it's going to work, it'll cost you more money and then get you into trouble. So just food for thought, because we see this happening a lot. It doesn't really affect us either way. Just make sure that you know what you're getting into if you're trying to jump around states, because most states have a law on the books that makes it a crime. It's a misdemeanor to evade responsibility or requirements for titling a vehicle by going to another state. If you have any questions, you can reach us on our website, cartitles.com. There's also an opportunity where you can book an appointment with a certified title agent and discuss any particulars on your vehicle. Thank you for watching another video at actualhuman.com and describe.tv. Remember, if you have questions or comments about our videos, put them in the link below. Also, remember that you have availability and access to live one-on-one question and answer consultation with a licensed expert in a number of fields: investigations, insurance, surety bonds, civil court mediation, even things like real estate records research, real estate brokers, real estate mortgage lenders. In addition, you're going to find that experts are available in business segments, business development, marketing, advertising, certified licensed experts. So if you do find this content valuable and you want to delve more deeply into a subject, you can't ask YouTube a question, right? But if you want to talk to somebody live, an actual human, use the link below. Thanks for watching.